I'm just saying a $3 price hike for a streaming service that actively removes the shows I actually want to watch is extortion. It's a literal paywall on my serotonin. Okay, losing your favorite sitcom is rough, but look at 18th century France. The French monarchy established the ultimate paywall, gating access to the entire national economy. Meet King Louis XVI. In 1774, he inherited an absolute monarchy. That is a system of government where a single ruler holds complete, unchecked political and economic authority. He sat at the top, dripping in velvet and gold, while the national treasury bled out. So when a government operates with zero oversight, it explicitly functions as a system designed to hoard resources at the top and lock everyone else out. Exactly. French society was divided into a rigid hierarchy called the Three Estates. The first estate was the clergy, the second was the nobility, and the third estate was everyone else, the commoners. That third estate made up a massive 90% of the entire population. This historical etching illustrates exactly how lopsided the system was. The top two tiers, the clergy and the nobility, enjoyed total exemption from state taxes. The poorest citizens, the peasants, physically carried the financial weight of the entire country. And then they hit a subsistence crisis. That's an extreme situation where a population's basic means of livelihood are directly endangered. France's population spiked right as brutal droughts and hail wiped out the grain harvests, which leads to scenes like this illustration. Bread was the absolute staple diet for the majority of the French population. Production plummeted, and the price of a single loaf shot up so fast that a standard laborer's wages couldn't cover basic calories. When the ruling class restricts access to literal survival, the societal structure guarantees its own collapse. The initial friction occurred among the educated members of the Third Estate. Lawyers, administrative officials, and merchants realized their economic leverage allowed them to challenge the crown's logic. They turned to Enlightenment philosophers like John Locke. In his two treatises of government, Locke argued that no group should be privileged by birth, and that social position must depend on merit. This line of reasoning framed the existing class hierarchy as an artificial construct, rather than a divine necessity. Armed with that realization, the Third Estate went rogue. In 1789, their representatives broke away to form the National Assembly, effectively seizing legislative power and deciding to draft their own constitution. And the intellectual rebellion quickly escalated into physical force. On July 14, 1789, enraged and starving commoners violently stormed the Bastille, the ultimate physical symbol of the king's absolute power. You have to expose the rules as arbitrary before you can successfully tear down the physical fortresses enforcing them. Faced with a full-scale revolt, Louis XVI caved. The new Constitution of 1791 officially stripped away his absolute veto and established a framework requiring equal laws and a representative legislature. They etched the new rules into this document, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. It explicitly stated that rights like freedom of speech, personal security, and equality before the law belonged to every human by birth. Except, look at the literal title, the Rights of Man. The National Assembly restricted these universal rights to men over 25 who paid a specific amount of taxes. Women were entirely excluded from the political process. The hypocrisy was immediate, and so was the pushback. Activist and writer Olympe de Gouges drafted her own document, the Declaration of the Rights of Woman and Citizen, demanding that the new republic grant exact political parity to females. Revolutions often dismantle an exclusive VIP section just to build a slightly larger one. Securing actual equality requires constant friction against the new gatekeepers. The political upheaval rapidly rewrote everyday French culture. The government officially abolished royal censorship. Without the king approving every script and article, newspapers, books, and pamphlets flooded the streets, allowing revolutionary ideas to go viral. It even dictated street fashion. Working-class men started wearing long, striped trousers, deliberately calling themselves the sans-culottes. That translates to without knee breeches, a direct, wearable insult aimed at the aristocratic fashion of the old elites. Massive shifts in state power never stay confined to government buildings. They rewrite what you read, the slang you use, and exactly what you wear. So the fact that I can sit on a microphone today and complain about corporate pricing without being thrown into a stone dungeon is a direct descendant of that exact defiance in 1789. Exactly. The freedom to criticize authority and demand fair treatment isn't a default setting on the human operating system. It had to be forcefully extracted from an oppressive regime. Message received. Now I just need to go pass this history exam before my mom decides to establish an absolute monarchy in our house and exiles me to the backyard. Good luck with that. History is the blueprint of how we secured our everyday freedoms and the clearest warning of how quickly someone else will try to revoke them.